Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy early start to this Monday morning, baby. We've got so many new things to be speaking about, $1 million setups, kind of, and also some major occurrences as Bitcoin does poke its head back above 28,000 bucks. Before we get into that, however, I do want to let you know that there is a sale going on as of right now. Let me just go over to my screen here, and you can see that it is Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to all the celebrators out there. Bit of a holiday today, actually. And for the next week, 20% off of all the programs or products. I should also let you know, as the pop-up, which is not on my screen right now, but might be on yours, is that we are going to be transferring over to a monthly sort of service for all of the indicators after the sale. So this will be the last time that you can actually buy any one of the indicators and just literally have it for life. And by the way, just to put anything to rest, if you already have one of the indicators and you bought it, like before the end of this week, you get to keep it. Obviously, nothing changes for you, nothing at all. Obviously, that would be like highly immoral and unethical. But more importantly, yeah, nothing will change for you. All right, sweet. Let's just jump right into it. I want to start off right on over here with what? Yes, we're going to start off with actually the daily. The daily on Bitcoin, many things going on. But first and foremost, I wanted to point out that the daily Joule signal has officially gotten liftoff as of the past couple days and is now supported by the DMI as of Sunday. Yes, as of Sunday, now heading into Monday, obviously. So I do look at this as a continuation of that setup that we looked at and now officially validated, which is going to have major implications actually for our strategy backtest over here. Now, before we get into this one, I do want to once again reiterate that when we talk about these strategies, obviously these are statistically based. And so for the past, I think the past 2 or 3, they've actually been failures. And I think like and before that, the past 9 to 11 were successes, which actually kind of makes a lot of sense, seeing as, you know, a lot of these strategies that I do like to present on this channel have around about a 70% win rate. So, you know, kind of around those stats. But as we get into this one, this is a Joule based setup on the daily. And first and foremost, before you even show any of the fun stuff, I do want to say that, hey, when we talk about $1 million setups, that is clickbait. Well, it's not necessarily clickbait, but it is clickbait because the position sizing that would be required to print this would be, let me just see what I've tested it with. Yeah, 300,000 base position size. Anyways, as I do put on the drawing tools here, or just my regular tools here, this is essentially a Joule based setup. So what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at the Joule Lite turning white, in this case below 30, below 38, plus PMARP being below 35 simultaneously. That happened officially right here. And with that particular setup over the past 49 iterations, which actually brings us all the way back to the genesis of Bitcoin, so going all the way back to the full-on beginning, it has actually printed some pretty interesting statistics over here. Out of 49 trades, 67 and 35% of these were you know, big winners, I'll say, with pretty big profit factor, and the net profit over that time was significant with those numbers. Now, if we go into the performance summary, we can see that the average winning trade was over 22.5% actually. The average losing trade also about 22% as well. so do keep that in mind. In this case, however, you know, what would that essentially look like if that plays out? Because this will come up later on in this video in less interesting tools, in my opinion, but maybe, you know, maybe of relevance to some people out there. So from that particular setup given, 20-ish% on top of current price action puts Bitcoin just above 33,000 bucks. So remember that number. What would invalidation for this look like? Obviously back down below last week's low would certainly do it for me in this case. And at that point, you can very likely expect, you know, 20% move to the downside, which actually would put Bitcoin below, it would actually put Bitcoin around 21,000 bucks. So kind of a big important moment for Bitcoin here, as I suspect that, you know, we are starting to see the resolution of this particular setup. And that does imply that, well, over the testing period, which how long does this take on average for the winning trades? Let's just see. Average bars and winning trades, 33. So 33 days from that, from this date right here, which was the 15th of May. So that brings us into about the middle of June. So we would expect things to kind of really get going to the upside right here. By the same token, to the downside, if it is a losing trade, on average takes about 42 days. So if you start to see this, you know, really going past, let's say mid-June, at that point, probably going to be quite likely that we will see this one fail. Anyways, yes, so we've gone through that. We've gone through that now. I do want to now get into some fun stuff over here. We'll go back to this chart, and I think I've kind of already given away my cards, but we do still have that falling pizza, a falling pizza within the context of a head and shoulders here. Now, of course, head and shoulders are typically bearish formations, and Bitcoin did break down a little bit here, but not anything super significant. I mean, it barely even got into the 25s actually. So looking at this right here, we'll first address the more recent one, which is the falling pizza or the falling wedge. Typically has an upside resolution. Upside resolution would be confirmed above the topside boundary of this, which is about 28,550 on a daily closing basis. At that point, there is an implied move to be made. Just take the width of that formation, and that would be pointed up towards just under 32,000 bucks. But what's even more important about this is that there's a head and shoulders right here, right? Or there was. I'll just kind of mark it off. So it's right there, and right there. Double left shoulder, double right shoulder is completely fine, by the way. Now, I'm not a big fan of patterns like at all, but if there is actually pretty good evidence for failures on head and shoulders to actually produce an opposite but equal target. So that's why I'm going to reference this one right here. And what essentially does constitute as a failure? Well, if you first break down below that neckline or kind of hover around the neckline, because, you know, this one, I mean, does that even really count as a break here on that 26,300 closure? I don't know. Anyways, more importantly with that, if you pop back above that breakdown point, typically you can apply that same sort of implied move. In this case, it would have been to the downside, but now to the upside, which I've actually already done over here. And what do you know? Where would it be pointed towards? 34,000 bucks actually. So pretty much directly in alignment with these statistically based indicators over here that we just looked at as far as this setup goes, but now coming at it from a different angle. And, you know, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, I guess. And not that you should really be skinning a cat or, you know, fucking around with cats at all. And especially if you've seen that documentary, Don't Fuck with Cats, like someone's going to find you, man, and you're fucked. And also it's just, you know, not very nice to do, I guess. But yeah, looking at these two different venues does suggest that, hey, we have multiple things kind of pointing in the same direction, which likely does increase the overall hit rate of it. And also, again, just kind of going back and referencing the setup over here, it's like, if we've seen the last 2 to 3 of those setups fail, and the prior like 9 to 11 were successes, I don't want to say we're due for another success here, but just it'd be a little bit more on the likely side, I suppose. Anyways, yes, okay, so we've gone through that. Let's go over here, and we can go ahead and reference. Stochastic momentum on the weekly. Now, the weekly time frame, as we identified last week, was, not to use a bad alliteration or a bad pun, was what was starting to come significantly down in terms of its upside pivot. Now the current pivot is 28,700. So if Bitcoin can close above that this week, which it already tested pretty fucking close to that, I think the high of the day or the high of this week thus far is 28.4, 28.5, somewhere around there. But if you could just close a few $100 higher by end of week, we'll actually see the weekly stochastic oscillator pop back onto the upside. And at that point, it's going to be holding into the bullish control zone, and would also kind of strengthen the case for another, another extension of this run, kind of in, hand in hand with the, with the macro case that we were looking at yesterday. It's like, hey, if we're going to see another extension on this run, probably happens in June. If you don't see it by the end of June, that would be a concerning signal for a greater pullback from here. But it is starting to look, more and more like trend continuation, and based off of those setups and probabilities, I'd say it's more likely. I mean, obviously. Anyways, I won't go into the 2-day setup today. I know I said I would yesterday, but I want to save a little bit of time here at the end. We'll go into it tomorrow, and we'll have a new closure on it tomorrow as well, I believe, or at least something more relevant, because nothing's really changed there. But all the other things that we spoke about earlier, we have some new data to incorporate. I suppose what we could also do before we go is we could also go ahead and reference the HPDR indicator. Let's just see where it is, then we can run through the stochastic momentum on the lower term timeframes. Let's start off over here on the 4-hour time frame. And yeah, what do you know? It is kind of basing between the 80% of historic returns range highs and the top side of the 50 as volatility continues to expand. So I don't see anything, super concerning here just yet. Short-term pullbacks down to like 27.6 are fine, but I would say a big warning signal, a big initial red flag, if you will, that this current rally will fail is if you start to see Bitcoin break down below about that point. Let's call it 27,500. Give it a little bit of space there. I just want to cruise around as well. Yeah, 12 hour not really giving us much here as well. If anything, they're kind of suggesting that's continue, breakout is in order. 6 hour time frame, we'd like to see it close above 28,300 in the short term for that one to continue. And at that point, we're probably looking north of 29,000 bucks earlier on in this week. And again, we do probably have a nice headline coming into this market a little bit later with the debt ceiling and all that good stuff. So, probably going to produce a little bit of short-term impulse as well. All right, sweet. So we spoke about setups, we spoke about invalidations, we spoke about all of that stuff. Good. All right. We spoke about the sale, so we got that as well. What else? Yes, I do also want to humbly request before we sign off on this video that if you find this content valuable or in some way meaningful, please do consider liking the video and also hitting the bell icon as well, as it'll notify you when new videos come out. All right, sweet. Good place for me to be leaving off. As always, want to be wishing you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.